Jessica had just returned from spending the holidays with her family in their home. Due to the fact that it had been so long since she had seen them, she was overjoyed. Jessica took her seat in the plane's back row, dressed in her uniform. She checked her boarding pass and discovered that she had been assigned to seat 31B. She knew it would take some time because it was so far away. She got a sneak peek at the business class seats when she boarded the plane. Even though they appeared to be very inviting and spacious, she couldn't afford them on her salary. She had no idea that someone was talking about her as she looked for her seat. This stranger approached the air hostess and expressed his dissatisfaction. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Jessica carried her belongings all the way up to the 31st row of seats. Jessica sensed something wasn't quite right. She didn't have a choice but to make the best of the situation. Nonetheless, she was disappointed that she would have to stay in that cramped space for 20 minutes longer than she had anticipated. However, the truth was that she was to blame for the delay. It was obvious that something wasn't quite right. She couldn't put her finger on it, but her instincts were correct. People started whispering nervously all of a sudden. This is when she first noticed the cabin crew. They appeared to be acting oddly. They dashed to a corner of the cabin in a stealthy flurry. Jessica was curious as to whether or not something was wrong. They were, in fact, discussing one of the passengers. Said person was also approaching Jessica at the time. Jessica was well aware that she had done nothing to merit attention. She had no idea what the man was looking for. Even though she was not at work, she had no way of knowing when a threat would arise that needed to be dealt with. She became aware of the man approaching her all of a sudden. He went in her direction with purpose and confidence, so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. As he continued to approach her, her thoughts raced. Before he was right in front of her, it felt like an eternity had passed. He did indeed want something from her, as she had suspected. His motives were plain to see on his face. She was taken aback by what he said when he opened his mouth. What could a complete stranger possibly want from her? He took a step closer and pointed to the seat. When he told her that her seat was already taken, he didn't even pause. With wide eyes, she looked around. That can't be right, can it? The man said, "I'm in your seat." She had no idea what he was talking about. "What does your ticket say?" he inquired. "What?" she insisted. "No, I'm 31B." She had no intention of taking this lying down, as it was stated in her ticket. She double-checked, confident that she was correct. Was he teasing her in some strange way? Jessica gave the flight attendants a sidelong glance. They simply nodded at her, much to her surprise. What was going on? Was he hallucinating? It didn't make any sense at all. The stranger tried to explain things to her. She was unable to take this seat because she was a servicewoman. He complimented her on how hard she worked to keep Americans safe, but she had to sit somewhere else. She stepped back and let him speak for himself. As you might expect, she could not anticipate getting into this much trouble when she boarded the plane. As a token of gratitude, the man said he would be honored if she exchanged tickets with him. He went to express his gratitude for her efforts. He was in business class, after all. Jessica couldn't believe what she was hearing. She tried to decline because it was too much for her, but he was adamant. She had no idea at the time that this was not the end of it. She eventually accepted his offer. She got to her feet and walked back down the aisle. This was not at all what she had anticipated. The allure of the comfortable and spacious seats, on the other hand, was too much for her to bear. Jessica was concerned because she had no way of repaying him. Despite this, she was exhausted from working so hard for days on end. Her entire body ached, but did she truly deserve this? She was simply relieved to be returning home after such a long absence. Jessica saw it as a reward for all of her hard work. When this kind stranger offered her something she could never afford with her own money, she was taken aback. She had a lot of questions for the gentleman who offered up his seat for her. She knew the kind man was bigger and older than her, so the economy class seats would be even more uncomfortable for him. Jessica felt bad because he was probably cramped in the seat that was supposed to be for her. It was now her turn to make this stranger's day. But how could she repay him for all he had done for her? She was at a loss for what she could do to make the flight at least a little more comfortable for him. Jessica discussed it with a flight attendant, but she was limited in her options. After all, she couldn't even send items to the economy seats. She'd have to come up with something else if she wanted to make amends with him. But what options did she have? Jessica was concerned about how he must be feeling in economy class. She knew, however, that if she offered to trade seats again, he would decline. It was for this reason that she took out a pen and a piece of paper. She clipped a $20 bill and asked one of the stewardesses to deliver it to the kind man on her behalf after writing a note on it. It was now his turn to be taken aback. When he read her note, he was taken aback. The world would be a better place if everyone treated people the way you treated the servicewoman, it said. She also requested that he bring her some snacks and drinks. Regardless, he turned down her offer. Despite the fact that he did not accept her offer, he did respond to her. Jessica smiled as she read it. He had a completely different plan in mind. Why don't you all get together for dinner once the plane lands? Of course, it was going to be his fault. Jessica couldn't help but wonder if they were on a date. She accepted without hesitation. As you might expect, his deed endeared the stranger to her. They went to a restaurant at the end of the flight and shared a meal. The truth was that she had already made up her mind that it would be a bad day. What a blunder she made on that one! If it hadn't been for the kind man, none of this would have happened. Similarly, he was taken aback by the note and money she sent him. Another passenger had a front row seat and was able to see everything that was going on in real time. They only went viral after they shared the story on the internet. Jessica Titus is the name of the woman who was on the flight that day and witnessed what happened. She decided to share her story online in the hopes of inspiring others to feel empathy and compassion. It went viral almost immediately. In fact, her post received 4,000 shares in the first hour after it was published. What's even more amazing is that others have chimed in with similar stories. One family related what transpired during a vacation. We witnessed this while on vacation. An older businessman handed over his first-class seat to a soldier. This netizen added, "We all cheered for him." Isn't it amazing how this story came to be? We love hearing stories like this one about random acts of kindness. Although the anonymous man had never met Jessica, he knew enough about her to recognize her as a heroine in her own right. What matters is that he recognized her efforts. This alone is enough to restore our faith in humanity. Let us keep in mind to be kind to others whenever possible.